Well, my first guest joins me in studio, Mr. Frederick Scheer. He is the CEO of Cereplast Incorporated, their stock symbol CERP. Frederick, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Don. I'm very pleased to be here today. Thank you.
Well, the company is very interesting. You describe yourself as a company which designs and manufactures proprietary bio-based sustainable bioplastics, which are basically a substitute for traditional plastics. Can you give us a general overview of the company?
Sure, it's absolutely correct. What we do, we make plastic out of bio-based material, out of renewable resources. People do not realize that plastic is made of oil. The plastics that we made are made from renewable resources. It's natural ingredients that will be renewed in less than a year. At the difference of oil, which take millions of years to be created, the products that we make will basically made out of products that are of crops that basically will allow the product to be created in a very short period of time. And this makes it sustainable for our society.
Well, what's interesting, when plastic was invented about 100 years ago, it was regarded as a breakthrough technology, but as you mentioned, its durability is a problem, and the fact that it has limited fossil fuel-based feedstock, that actually becomes a real problem, doesn't it?
It is absolutely correct. One of the things that everybody needs to understand is the plastic industry is one of the most successful business stories of the 20th century. I believe that bioplastic will be the success story of the 21st century. And let me explain you why. In the 1950s, the traditional plastic industry was about $1 billion. Today, it's $1 trillion. I believe and I predict that bioplastic will represent about 30% of that $1 trillion within the next 25 years. I believe that within the next 10 years, bioplastic will be about $20 billion, of which we at Cereplast expect to take a nice fraction of it. What we're expecting to do and what we're working on right now is try to capture anywhere from $300 to $500 million in the next 5 years. So it's challenging, obviously, and it's challenging because we are the innovation. We are the people disturbing the big, huge companies, the big oil company, the big chemical company that are looking at us, in fact, being a little bit disturbed by what we are doing, obviously.
And of course, the main difference, what differentiates your products from traditional plastic is that yours biodegrades very quickly.
It is correct. The products that we make are products that eventually, in certain application, will compost. They will biodegrade in less than 90 days, leaving no chemical residue behind when you put them in a compost site. A difference, for instance, of a paper cup coated with a plastic film, or forks and knives and spoons made from traditional plastics that's going to take anywhere from 500 to 1,000 years to disappear. Our product in a compost site will disappear, go back to nature, enriching the soil within less than 90 days. It's a big change. It's important. And on top of it, we are creating much less carbon dioxide, which will help the next generation. And I think it's pretty important.
The company is Cereplast Incorporated, CERP is their stock symbol. Now, many municipalities and cities across the country are starting to ban things like reusable one-use containers for leftovers, plastic bags. You can replace all of those, can't you?
Absolutely. We are working on it and trying to get into it. And we really recommend to everyone which is conscious of all the harm creating, in fact, to nature, to look into our product and work with it. Otherwise, we will end up, in fact, creating a lot of problems. Let me take an example. In the past year or so, you have heard of the major flood that you had in China. Well, those floods now apparently have been created by 50 years of mulch film, those films that are made to cover the crops, made of polyethylenes that are put on the crops and being buried into the soil. Well, after 50 years, what happened? You have put a raincoat on the soil, and when it rains, well, the water doesn't penetrate, creating a major issue. With our resin, our film will biodegrade in short period of time, go back to nature without creating harm. I think it's important and it's time, not only for Europe, not only for Asia to wake up, but even for our country.
Well, obviously it's working. Your revenues so far in 2013 are up 800% over last year. Why the big increase?
Big increase because you have legislation overseas that are mandating the use of our product. We expect this, in fact, to continue and to grow. So we're crossing our fingers and working very hard to make it, in fact, a success story. And as I said earlier, I don't think that you want to look at 1 year. You want probably to look at several years. I believe that in several years from now, people will look at Cereplast being like, hopefully, the DuPont of the 21st century.
Now, in addition to your compostable bioplastics, you also manufacture bio-based bioplastics for more durable applications. They offer a lower carbon footprint. Tell us about that.
Sure. It's also important to understand that all products cannot be composted because they are automobile parts, there are any type of application like this. So what you want is, you want to create a product that at least going to create much less carbon dioxide. Let me take an example. When traditional plastic create 1 kilo of polypropylene, at the same time they create 3.15 kilos of carbon dioxide, creating a tremendous amount of problem. Well, when they use 1 kilo of our, what we call biopropylene, we create only 1.15 kilo of carbon dioxide, so reducing by 3 the amount of carbon dioxide being created. It's very important. Those issues are issues that will have a financial impact on our society, a financial impact, in fact, on our growth. I really believe that, in fact, it is something that everybody should be doing.
It's really remarkable, Frederick. Now let's talk about the markets that you're focusing on and what the opportunities are.
Well, I mean, we're a small company, and therefore, in order, in fact, to get into the market, we have to go where the market is calling us. The market is calling us for compostable material, where you have legislation. Legislation are driving, in fact, our growth. It's the example for this year, where legislation in Italy and in France is starting, in fact, to basically drive our growth. We are expecting that growth to continue because those legislation are growing. We're also going, and we're starting to see a second effect, which is the increase in the price of the barrel of oil. With a barrel of oil at $100, what we have to offer is starting to become much more attractive. So also the sustainable are starting to grow. And I believe that we'll see, in fact, some of it in the United States and also in Asia. We have a presence in India, and in India we are starting, in fact, to have nice sales that will be reporting shortly that clearly, in fact, are showing that India, USA and Europe will be part of our revenue stream in 2013 and in 2014 even more.
About 30 seconds left. Tell us why it's a good time right now to take a closer look at your company.
Well, I believe that it's a good time because we are at the juncture, we are at a point where, in fact, our stock is just going to go up. So I really believe that we are a bargain. We have a very strong IP, I mean intellectual portfolio, we have strong know-how, and we have manufacturing capacity.
Cereplast Incorporated, CERP. We've initiated coverage of this company. We'll be following you very closely over the next several months. Thanks so much for joining us. Fascinating.
Thank you, Don.